City of Stevens Point Public Works Committee meeting, recorded April 8, 2024.
Okay, call the Board of Public Works meeting to order. It is 6:08. Trish, could I get a roll call, please?
Sure. Mayor Wiesa.
Here.
Gilly Fischler.
Excused.
Chris Tiffany.
Excused.
Okay. Mary Nebo.
Here.
Sean Morrow.
Here.
Ginger Keemer.
Here.
And Dean Shuda.
Here.
All right, we do have a quorum, so we will proceed. Item number 1 is the director's report, an update on the Division Church Street Reconstruction Project. Director?
I just wanted to recap very briefly the 30% Design Open House, which was held last week Wednesday. I think my opinion of it, at least, was I think it was very positive. That's not to say that everybody just welcomes it with open arms. We all know that. But even asking the journalists that were still there at the end what their impressions were, and I think they both agreed that it was generally positive by those that were in attendance. So in addition to that, just one minor change there that I wanted to point out if anyone wasn't aware of, kind of a design consideration change to what the concept was, which is a removal of the median in the area of 6th Avenue along Division Street, which was kind of a necessity after having our one-on-one meetings and working through some of the potential shared access along the east side of the road with all those narrow businesses. So that part was otherwise. So it is up on the website if you wanted to take a look. If you were unable to make it there, you want to look at that. And then we will have on the finance, we have approval of the AECom, hopefully approval of the AECom contracts for final design.
Okay. Any questions on the Division and Church Street Reconstruction Project for the director?
I just have a comment. We did have a pretty good turnout for it, pro and for. All the staff was really, all the staff were really open to what everybody asked. Everybody was really civil, nice, and it was really a really nice event.
Okay. Thank you very much. With that, I'd take a motion to accept the director's report and place it on file.
So moved.
Moved by Nebo. Seconded by Keemer. Discussion. Comments from the audience? It's kind of a skeleton crew today, so everybody's got to take up, step up a little bit. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that's approved. Item number 2, and the rest of them here are all bid awarding because that's that time of the year. First one is to award the Northside Streets Improvement Project 2401 to Integrity Grading and Excavation out of Schofield in an amount not to exceed $8,190,065.93.
So moved to approve.
Motion to approve by Morrow.
I will second.
Seconded by Keemer. Discussion? Comments from the audience? I will just note that we had some questions about whether or not we could do these with the referendum that passed almost 2 years ago now, and these were the referendum questions. So the amount is larger because it includes all of the utilities, which were not required under the referendum. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? And those are approved. Item number 3 is to award the 2024 Southside Streets Improvement Project 2402 to A1 Excavating LLC out of Bloomer, Wisconsin in an amount not to exceed $3,329,944.60.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Morrow,
I'll second.
second by Kneebone. Trying to look at it both sides of my head. Discussion. Yes.
Just one quick question. In the budget and in the memo, it's listed as a road resurfacing project. Are there utility elements to this project as well?
Yes, I apologize for that. It was originally proposed as a resurfacing project until utilities took a further look into some, and there were a few missing pieces that they wanted to add. When they started doing that, it kind of just, they said we want to replace it all instead of trying to piecemeal things together. So it essentially is now a complete reconstruction.
Great, thank you.
And that's actually a really good question because we've been looking at both utilities and roads together for quite some time, because if you're going to tear up a road and you don't replace the utilities and then 6 months later you got to tear up the road to replace utilities, that's problematic, and you get that patterning of the big squares. So they work very closely together. Any other questions? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? And that is approved. Item number 4 is to award the 2024 Public Works Garage Roofing Project 24-07 to Maurer Roofing out of Marshfield in an amount not to exceed $222,690.60. This was slightly over budget, right? Or more than anticipated.
With the contingency, yes, it does put it up. Don't anticipate that, but if we do, we'll work to balance with them. But yes.
Okay. Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Morrow,
I will
seconded by
second.
Kiemer. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that's approved. Item number 5 is to award 2024's Fire Station Roofing Project 24-08 to Modern Builders out of Janesville, Iowa, in an amount not to exceed $354,748.38. This one was under, right?
No, this is the one.
This is the one that's over.
Yes, I'll go through more in the finance. I can go through it now if you want to hear the spiel. I'm going to say it one way or the other, either now or in finance after this.
So why don't you do it now?
Say it.
Save finance some time.
Right. So it's
all for you, Alder Christensen.
The overall thing is I have generally summarized in here. If you've read the boat and all the memos around, we originally had identified 3 potential roof projects for the year, 2 at the Public Works Garage and Fire Station 2. What we ended up with is the Fire Station 2, and I don't know the history there, was even underneath the Garland, who is kind of our partner on these roofing projects, their budget. I don't know the history there. I don't know if Chief wants to explain a little bit more on that. So we're a little bit under budget on what that is. We ended up, really, my fault for talking to Garland about what we wanted to do. We used the price for a rehabilitation. I kept just referring to everything as a replacement, so they put the bidding documents together, and what did they do? Exactly what I asked them for, a replacement which we could not afford. Their recommendation was not to go out for bid at least this year because the market has really picked up, didn't think we would get good prices or even potentially finish the project, which is then in finance will be asking to take the money that was for that roof section and apply it to Fire Station 2 with a request for a small amount to cover potential extra on that. That's kind of everything in a nutshell. Any questions? I don't.
And just to give a little history on the Station 2 roof, we actually had that in the plan, or the capital funding plan, for this year, and had some encumbered funds from last year's Station 1 roof project. With those encumbered funds and with what we had budgeted, we had to work with DPW on this to facilitate that deficit and where we came in over budget for this coming year. So we've addressed that concern, and that's where Scott and I have worked together, and hopefully can come to some resolution here with what we're recommending.
All we're looking at doing at this committee is awarding the bid. Finance Committee will talk about the extra 25 grand after this.
So move.
Okay, motion by Shuda.
Second.
Welcome to the game.
Second.
Seconded by Nevone. Discussion.
Come on, Sheila, wake up.
Yes.
I appreciate the departments working together to set priorities and kind of reallocate funds and make this happen. So, thank you.
Excellent. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? And that's approved. Item number 6 is to award the 2024 Forest Creek Subdivision Project 24-11 to A1 Excavating LLC out of Bloomer in an amount not to exceed $3,256,634.40. Director, I know we were going to talk about this a little bit, to talk about the phased approach that we're doing, because while the subdivision plat is not yet done, we know that we're running utilities up to that subdivision. However the subdivision looks in the future is, well, remains to be seen, but explain the phasing, please.
Sure. So yes, what we've otherwise have, working internally with the staff, Greg Shannon, city engineer, Director Karnowski, trying to otherwise figure, what would meet, as the mayor said, a part of this is completely independent of really what the subdivision might look like, which is otherwise getting utilities up there, which is a fair amount of the overall project. So we figured we at least otherwise do that, and then as the approval comes through, we would work on getting the rest of it through there without trying to get our cart in front of the horse. We have talked to A1 Excavating, just let them know that if that were to happen, we weren't getting a plat approval, that we would be essentially being responsible for a delay, and they're totally open to whatever it is, their schedule's open. So we said, even if it goes into next year, they said they're fine with that approach, as long as they otherwise know that the work is otherwise there. So they're putting together a schedule that kind of shows that, and then once we otherwise see that, and as we work through it, we'll kind of go through those approvals as far as a milestone to complete that utility extension, and then look at what it otherwise might take as we get approval, and then do a contract extension just to finish up the rest of it. So in essence, a two-phased approach.
Okay.
Move to
Moved by
approve.
Nebo,
Second.
seconded by Morrow. Discussion. Comments from the audience? Yes, sir. Approach the lectern. Name and address, please.
Hi, Pete Arnson, 1016 Buckolt Avenue. I'm also a commissioner on the Stevens Point Planning Commission, and just have some questions about this, and you may have addressed them, but I was wondering, I looked through the bid specs a little bit, and it seems like, the driveways, and I think even the laterals are laid out and have a number of them, and that, I think, is included in the bid specs. So I was wondering how much latitude we'll have to shift things up based on what the final plat is. And is there a significance to how many? Let's say, I don't know how many lots we got, but let's say we chop out 10. Is that going to affect pricing at all?
That shouldn't. There are certain things within contract documents, I forget, because there are actually several things that can flag changes to it. I believe if the total quantity for anything, you're putting me on the spot here, I forget what it is, but there is actually a trigger that eventually the contractor can come for a unit price change to that. So there is the possibility that if you reduce the number enough, they can ask for more, because it usually just costs them. It's all about economies of scale. So if you reduce the work enough to do that. As far as the going overage, all what we have to work with is the statutory requirements as far as we can increase the total contract by 15%. Beyond that, we can't. And what they would do if, in many of those changes, if there's a change in quantity, it's just a matter of paying the actual quantity. If that makes sense.
Right. We have unit rates for them, so if we install 60 driveways or 80 driveways, it's that unit rate, but if it affects the total bid too much, then you may have to reevaluate costs or do
Right.
change
On
orders.
those individual items that have, and I wish I could remember what it was, I think it might be 10%. To do that, it does otherwise allow the contractor, to come back with the ability to negotiate
unit.
that higher per unit price, trying to cover their extra costs. But it is essentially a negotiated change order at that time to get it. It just opens up, the contract documents simply open it up for that discussion. It allows them to propose.
All right, so we still got a fair bit of flexibility in the planning commission.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In our discussions with A1, we haven't seen exactly what it was, but, that was something that they actually, brought up to us. It's just that they're flexible. They don't see that. I said, if quantities change, we'll of course adjust. They said, we're not worried about it. I don't anticipate that they're going to, try to take advantage of that situation. In fact, this year, just a little aside, is, they're trying to move people up here. They told us at the very beginning of the year that they wanted, their hope is to sweep the entire city. They had 5 crews ready to go. We had 5 projects going out the door. They did get 2 of them. So I think they've others worked with them in the past. And yes, we've already started that dialogue. I think we're in a really good spot. And yes, we actually do have a fair amount of flexibility depending upon what's finally decided.
All right, good to know. The other question, and you guys mentioned it a little bit, the referendum required for building projects. I'm not entirely sure how that plays out, but I'm reasonably certain we didn't have one for this project.
This is utilities. The referendum is for transportation projects, and utility projects are not included in that. That's why you'll see, if you look back at the referendum questions, the transportation dollars were estimated, but not the utility dollars. So I think it was 3.2 estimated for the North Side project.
Yes.
The bid was over 8. Most of those are going to be utilities, all that the bigger part of the difference.
All right, so it's only the
Utilities-
road work part of it that applies to.
Yeah, if you look at the wording of the resolution or the referendum, it applies to transportation projects, not utilities. So we don't include any of the water, sewer, stormwater in those.
All right, very good, thank you.
Yeah, can I just,
Absolutely,
just
go
to
ahead.
make sure for clarity, before we do any project that, we always estimate, that out to know whether we feel it's, it needs to go to referendum or not. In this particular case, we're estimating and I don't know if Director Karnowski remember, it was between like $600,000 and $800,000 is what we estimated for it, giving us a cushion to think that we weren't close. I think in the end, when we factored it out, I think we were just under $600,000 to what we assigned as far as road, and the rest of it is all utility work, so no referendum required.
Okay, yes.
Thank you. In previous discussions of this development, there was talk of bringing the utilities up Burlowski, but then last week at Plan Commission, it sounded like thoughts around that might have changed. Given where we are now without apply, like what are thoughts about where those utilities might extend?
So, and actually, I think.
Is that Director Lemke?
Yeah, well, Director Lemke's unavoidable, but I think,
Okay.
well, many of those other discussions, that, because the Burlowski option was much more expensive.
Right.
Yeah, so really it just came down to cost. So we can get the same diameter pipe up Joe Street to Gala, and eventually that Gala Road pipe will go to Burlowski and go north of the Lost Creek to service the future northeast area of the city. As opposed to if you went up Burlowski, you have to take out a lot more asphalt, a lot more concrete depending where you are in that road right of way, and it just becomes a lot more expensive. And then of course you have some more significant traffic disruptions as part of that as well. So it just made financial sense that we could achieve the same goal by going up Joe Street as opposed to going all the way to Burlowski and north there.
That makes sense. Great. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Trish, help me out. I forgot already. Do we have a motion?
We do.
We do. All right, any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved, and we are adjourned at 6:24.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.